everybody, good morning. Before the lesson starts, could I get a volunteer? Casey. There probably is going to be some garbage accumulated throughout the lesson.
Trash
I'm the
lord.
garbage lady.
Yeah.
No, you're the mayor of Titan.
Yeah, people could just like try and pass their garbage over to her if you so happen to have some. Today we're going to be going over a little bit about wrestling and some of the stances that are involved in that sport. Wrestling started in the Greek and Roman eras, which were separate eras. It was done in like Colosseum, and you would have men, normally slaves, wrestling each other for sport and the entertainment of those who could come to watch them. Currently, there's international wrestling, and there is wrestling in the United States. It's going all throughout levels, from little children's called peewees to high school and to collegiate level. And once you get into the international scene, there becomes a shift in the style. What we do here in the U.S. is something called folk style. And this is done in the United States. The international styles that are done at the world and Olympic level are called freestyle, and Greco-Roman. Greco-Roman is not a name, it is a reference to the Greeks and Romans. Easily confusable. Just back up so everyone can see this. Our outcomes for today are to be able to name the 3 different styles of wrestling. I'm hoping that you will all be able to demonstrate the 2 different types of wrestling stances, as these 3 styles really have 2 different stances that are used. And then I'm hoping that you will all be able to identify which stance belongs with each style. So, these 3 styles vary in their point system and what you are allowed to do, so the rules. Folk style and freestyle, the main difference between them is how back points are scored. So that's like how people lay on their backs and like how those points are awarded. The main difference between folk style, freestyle, and Greco-Roman is that in Greco-Roman you cannot attack the legs. Since you cannot attack the legs, it involves a whole other stance. So now I'm going to demonstrate for you what a freestyle stance looks like.
Sorry, wait, which one can't you attack the legs in all of them, or which one?
So you can only not attack the legs in Greco-Roman.
Okay.
And the other 2, you can totally attack the legs. And that's why you need a different stance for Greco-Roman compared to freestyle and folk style. Your question?
Oh, no. Mimicking a Greco-Roman.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So in freestyle and folk style, because your legs can be attacked, you want a low center of gravity. I have a lead leg, but some people will stand in a square stance. It's kind of like a squat with your butt low, your hands up, and people will say you want your head over your hips, over your ankles, so kind of like this. Little things to point out that aren't really as essential are to keep your elbows in, and you want to have your head up and short. This way your neck can't really be attacked as much. So let's have everybody stand up. Maybe take a step, just find a little area for yourself. Over here there's plenty of room. Andy, maybe not that far. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we got some more space over here too if people need it. And let's all try to just get into a freestyle, folk style stance. You want your hips low, it's a good athletic stance. Elbows in, neck short. Have a nice bend your foot maybe offset like this, maybe your foot different. Good. That's a good one. Maybe you can arch your back a little bit more, Dana. Yeah, just like that. Andy, that's a good stance. JR, you want your elbows in and tucked into your sides. Yeah, that was nice. Ian, that was good. But you tuck those elbows in and now tuck your leg. Yeah. Go and tuck those elbows in right on your side. Nice. Andy, that was good. Good. Just bring those elbows back. Nice. Casey, you want to squat down a little bit farther? Yeah, that's perfect. Another rule of thumb with a stance that helps you realize where your positioning is you want to be able to touch the ground. So if you can swipe the ground, you're pretty much low enough. So what I'm going to have you all do is maybe Dana come over here, Andy come over here, give yourself just a little bit of space. And we're just going to move a little bit. Touch the ground, make sure you have the right level. The movement is that you do not want to cross your legs. So you're not going like this. Okay, if you go like this, you're really off balance. You want to keep your wide base. Andy, could you see that? You don't want to cross your legs like this.
No crossing.
You want to keep your legs open and have a strong base so if you can get moved. And I'm going to come around and just tap you in a direction as you're moving.
Yeah, like strong thighs.
Yeah, it's really strong thighs, really strong back. Nice. See, that's a good position. Over here. See, that's a good position. That's good. Nice movement, everyone. Nice movement. You want to stay in that low stance as long as I know it's kind of hard. Good. Awesome. All right, everybody stand up. Great job. Great job. So you can see that that's like really strong. What's going to happen in wrestling is Dana can just get into a stance real quick. You want to come towards me. People are going to be here and they're going to be trying to shoot underneath you. So that's why you got to be low so you can keep your hands down and stop them from attacking your legs. Everyone can sit down. So
every time I watch wrestlers, people tap their heads.
yeah, there's a lot of head taps.
Just to make them eat.
And I was like, what is it doing?
Great. So what were some of the positionings that you needed in order to have a strong stance? Abby.
I love center of gravity.
Nice. All right. Fletcher.
You don't want your legs to cross.
Don't want your legs to cross. Nice. Kevin. Arms in. Nice. Rowan.
Neck.
Yeah, neck short. Sick. Great job, everybody. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Is we have a low center of gravity. You have your elbows in, and you have able to move and have a strong base. You'll be able to stop your legs from being attacked, which is the main point of conflict in freestyle and folk style is your legs. Nice. Alright, so the other stance is for Greco-Roman. In Greco-Roman, you don't have to worry about your legs being attacked. So that looks a little bit different. You're really going for throws, so you're going to be popping in your hips and trying to throw them with your arms. So you're more like this. You want your hips into them. You want to be pressuring them back, and you're really just fighting ties up top, which is much different than the other one. Because I don't care if you can't touch my legs. It's a point for me if you touch my legs. You should be out, getting your hips out, and having your chest in, and just driving the person. If everyone could stand up, we could try that stance.
How, like, at what point is it like, your hips or like anything
Here, anything from here up is attackable. This area, you might get called. So that's at the ref's discretion as to what they think you're attacking. So if everyone just wants to try, get your one leg. I like to have a lead leg. So that'd be my right leg will be out in front of me. And that's where I'm putting my pressure. And you're kind of just bumping your hips into. Imagine there's a person there, you're bumping your hips into them as you try to get more and more force to throw them off balance. Yeah.
Keep your back leg.
So my back leg is slightly offset from my right. It's in a nice low, bendable stance so I can drive. And you're just driving into the person as you come up with it. Dana, that was good. JR, maybe keep this front leg a little bit straighter and out more. So maybe here, back up some stuff.
Extensive reprogramming.
Yeah, like that. That looks better. That looks better. And now you're coming in right here.
I can't kick now.
And now bring your body, the upper half, just more towards bend it away. Yeah, so you want to like right here, like you with my chest. Nice. All right. Kevin, that looks good. Ian, that looks good. Let me check out y'all stance. So flex your back of your chest and bring your chest a little bit forward. Yeah, like that. Nice. Right there. Awesome. Go, let me see yours. All right, that was good. We're going to come here next. Nice. That was good. Chill. Let me see yours. Maybe just come over. That was good. All right, Casey. So maybe bend at the, right there. All right, now everyone, grab a partner.
Oh, God.
I don't want either, y'all. Oh no. Take JR.
Wrestling.
Oh no.
Nice. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to just drive into each other. Don't blow your partner back, don't blow them, but just drive into each other so they can feel that pressure and just maintain a good stance.
Frankie, do we want to have a closed stance to each other like that? Or would it be easier to practice if we're closed or open?
So that really depends on, and this is where wrestling's beautiful, if you're a lefty and he's a righty, y'all just got to wrestle like that. So whatever feels best for you.
Like that.
That wouldn't work very well in Greco-Roman.
Because I can't push.
Yeah, but if you can make it work, all the more power to you. You'd be a wild card for sure. You'd be a wild card. Maybe we just take a minute and just drive in so you just feel that pressure and just lower to the hips. Don't blow your partner back. Yeah, it looks good. And maybe just kind of move your hands with it. Just try and get. And the goal now, we're gonna play a quick game, everyone. If you listen real quick, we're gonna play a quick game. As we're going, you just want to try. And Fletcher, if you come here for a second. So as we're driving into each other, you want to keep your elbows in. Drive in. You're gonna try to lock your hands around their back. And if you lock your hands around their back, you get a point. First 1 to 3 wins.
Wait, is that like you get a point in actually wrestling?
No, just in our game.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like,
first 1 to 3
you get a
points
point in
wins,
wrestling.
and they get a piece of candy.
You're still
So it's really intense, and then come sit down when you're done. You have to go under both arms for it to count. You gotta go under the arms, Danny. Under the arms, under the arms. If you don't go under both arms, it doesn't count. No takedowns, no takedowns. Keep your elbows in. Strong stance.
This is all just like
So fun.
Nato's tickling me, Frank. There's no rule against tickling. It's just not recommended.
There's no rule
It's a
against
procedure, not a policy.
Oh. Man,
All right, when you get done, come back and tell me who won.
I was gonna get you for a second, Andy.
Who won? Nice.
Let's see what you think that. Yeah,
0-0. No candy awarded.
very fluid. And then as soon as you walk behind it,
That was fun.
Who won?
It was a tie. He just let me.
Tie. JR.
Just kidding. Round one.
Kev, he's out of your weight class, man. Who won? Dana. I did see Dana get a grip over there, though.
That was fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Great job, everybody. That was fun. Make sure you're passing your wrappers over to Casey. So, what are some of the characteristics of a Greco-Roman stance? Fletcher.
Hips forward.
Hips forward, yes. Abby.
1 foot in front of the other.
Yup, 1 foot in front of the other. Does anybody else have anything else on that? Kevin.
Strong bent back leg.
Strong bent back leg. Totally. One other little nuance is just keep those elbows in again. You know, in that game, if you got the elbows in, they couldn't come underneath you. That was kind of there to show you how that works. Awesome. So why is it in the Greco-Roman stance that we're standing up so tall? Jill.
They can't attack her.
Nice.
Anything.
See, I told you I thought of you. All right. Awesome. Why in the freestyle / folk style stances are we so low to the ground? Flexion.
Because you always can be attacked.
Your legs can be attacked. Yep. Awesome.
Why didn't they attack legs?
It's against the rules.
Close, but like.
Why were those rules made that way? So the rules were made that way so that there would be a higher probability. Going back to the most common takedown in freestyle and folk style is a double leg takedown. So that's where I come underneath you, I grab both legs, and I take you down to the ground. By not allowing any attacks to the legs, it creates a greater probability for someone to get thrown, which looks the best. It looks really cool when someone gets like really thrown, and that's like why Greco-Roman is set up that way, so that like all you can do is things called drags, where you like try to just quickly get behind the person or throw the person. All right. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna have each one of you. Well, let me get, actually, we'll just do 5 volunteers. Let me see 5 volunteers. 1, 2, 3. 2 more, 4. Nice, 1 more. All right, JR, 5.
All right.
What we're gonna do real quick is just have each one of you come up and show your best stance. It can be whatever you felt most comfortable in. If you felt most comfortable in the freestyle and folk style, demonstrate that one. If you felt most comfortable in the Greco-Roman style, demonstrate that one. And then we're gonna have the rest of the class identify which stance style you're in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. I believe Ian, you rose your hand first. Nice. All right, that one's your hands. Hands. Dana.
Freestyle, folk style.
Nice. You get a piece of candy.
Yay.
Awesome. I think Fletch, you were next, right?
Oh, I wasn't a volunteer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you volunteered. Who was the second person to there? Kevin. Who was the other side for you?
50-50 shot, man.
50 shot.
Nice. Ian.
Greco-Roman.
Sick. That's totally right.
What?
Yeah.
Not a wrestle song.
Abby. Good stance. Good stance.
What am I doing?
Casey. Yep, that's a folk style freestyle stance. All right. Sure.
Are there differences between folk style and folk style?
Yes. Not in the stance itself. The difference comes into play with how points are awarded. In freestyle, would you like to hear about that?
Yeah.
Cool. So in freestyle, if you step out of bounds, the other person gets a point. And that's not the case in folk style. In freestyle, if you roll across your back, so if we're wrestling and I'm here and I go like this, and I'm wrestling you, you get 2 points. In folk style, I would have to come here, 1, 2, now you get 2 points. In freestyle, a takedown is worth 1 point. In folk style, a takedown is worth 2 points. You'll also notice with freestyle, when I'm awarding 1 point, this is just from a slight nuance, I'm awarding 1. 1 point in folk style looks like this. So it's a little bit of nuance, and really what happened is that folk style is like an offshoot of freestyle that only a few countries in the world even practice. The largest, most dominant country practicing that is the United States. And that split happened I believe in like the 1960s. Yes.
What's the advantage? Like, why would you go folk style?
So folk style is the collegiate level and the high school level. So if you wanted to wrestle freestyle in high school, you really have to search it out. I did
What's
some.
the advantage of doing it? Why does everyone?
That's a beautiful question. That's like a wrestling cultural question that I don't even really understand. I think it has a lot to do with like why does the U.S. use feet and not meters kind of deal. Like seriously, there's not really an explanation historically or logically as to why we made the switch. And if you want to get to the biggest stage in wrestling, you have to switch to freestyle or folk style. There's just no competitions for folk style. I'm sorry, freestyle Greco-Roman. There's no competition for folk style. I believe JR was up. Nice. Tucking those elbows in. And see, what you notice here that I really like is JR has what we call a square stance. Okay?
Trying to figure out how I move.
Nope, it's just little steps. Little steps. You're just creeping up like a crab.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Awesome. What do people think that stance was?
That was
for your folk style.
Sick. Great job. Great job.
Drilla.
Yeah, that looks great. That looks
Come after me, I dare ya!
great.
That's definitely freestyle. Free folk style.
Free
Hola
folk.
style.
Definitely. Definitely.
Ready to marry.
All right. Does anyone have any questions about wrestling, the styles that we went over, or the stances that we had?
Do you
Yes.
have a competition to see who's the best wrestler?
I'm the best wrestler. If y'all can make it to my weight class, I would love to compete against you.
What's your weight class, Frank?
So before coming out here wrestling 157, I weigh probably closer to like 175, 180 right now. Yeah. So awesome. So just to review kind of what we went over, we would just try to identify the 3 different types of wrestling or styles of wrestling. That's freestyle, folk style, and Greco-Roman. We talked about some of the differences between them as to why there is that separation of styles. After that, we talked about the 2 different stances that there were in these 3 styles and why those stances need to be different and what it takes to get your body positioned into those stances. And after that, we identified which stance belongs with which style. Does anybody else have any other questions before we close the lesson? Yes.
What is wrestling culture like in Syria?
So wrestling culture in Syria is not really that existent right now. Before this, the Middle East has mixed levels of capability. Iran normally does very well. Syria itself isn't that strong on an international scene. But a lot of that's just kind of how it is. Syria really doesn't have much going on for wrestling right now, but that has a lot to do with its infrastructure not having a ton going for it.
More so than like having other practices that they do.
Yeah, so
martial arts.
wrestling was there, and it was like definitely practiced and had somewhat of a following. And like for a small country, it wasn't terrible. But then when it comes to like, it's this thing where like when you have like small countries that then come to like the international stage, places like Russia and the U.S. Really dominate the scene a lot of times, just because there's such a larger pool of athletes. But Iran specifically does very well. Also, a lot of the stand countries do very well as well. There's a culture of wrestling there stemming from the Soviet Union that
Yeah, I was gonna say, like in Afghanistan, it was huge. Like their
wrestling was type of like Greco-Roman, but they'd go for like you're wearing like pants with a waistband to like throw, put you off balance.
Yeah, a lot of that, at least to the best of my knowledge, stems from during the time of the Soviet Union. Wrestling was like really big. And what would happen is that in order to be represented by that nation or that country, that union, they only had one athlete in like the Olympic trials. So there was like all these sick wrestlers from like all like the stand regions that weren't able to compete. And so they had like really intensive training programs in order to get their essentially like local athletes to compete on the international stage. And because of that, they like now that entity has split into smaller nations, those smaller nations still have really good infrastructure for the sport because they were trying to like make it in the big leagues beforehand, if that makes sense. Like Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, all of those nations have pretty good programs. Yeah.
Isn't wrestling not in the Olympics anymore?
So there was a big push for it to not be in the Olympics this past. I think other sports that were trying to get in, like ribbon dancing is one of them. Seriously. That was like one of the
I
ones.
just remember definitely seeing on the news the big conflict with wrestling was the foundation of the Olympics. And they were
Yeah, it was there like since like the Rio Olympics, and it's still in the Olympics. It took a lot of support. The thing is, wrestling doesn't draw much money, so especially on the Olympic stage, the numbers who watch wrestling is pretty low. There's not much funding for like sports teams, like on a high school and a college level. A lot of wrestling communities. Like you have like football, which is like funding from the school, and then wrestling normally has a separate booster club, like in high school, that has to like pay for all this stuff. The community is pretty small, but it's a very like tight knit and around one. And it was talked about being left out of the Olympics for the 2020, but it's still in it.
Do you feel like a lot of like, things towards, you think like popularization of styles like MMA and all those different ones have had an effect on like the interest in folks watching wrestling, or not?
So yeah, that's a tough one. I think that like the popularization of MMA might not have made it so that kids want to wrestle, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that the popularization of MMA, because wrestling only transfers so much, wrestling really transfers in a person's ability to move. So like just knowing body positionings and being able to move and being able to outwork some of the other martial arts. I know like Taekwondo is something that transfers much more so into MMA than wrestling. Jiu-jitsu transfers a lot more so because in wrestling there's not like a finishing move. The wrestling, the point is to put you on your back and hold you there. And other MMA or other martial arts sports, there's normally a submission or a point of contact, like a throw or a kick, that can stop the other person completely and make them either submit or knock them out. In wrestling, there's just not that going on. So I think that like it may have brought more attention to the fact that like wrestlers make good MMA participants. If you look at rosters, and I don't watch much MMA, but almost every time I've seen a ticket, like a ticket is in like a MMA bout where they have like 6 bouts or whatever going on. At least one of the people on there, they're saying, has a background in wrestling. So like,
a lot with it. Like, oh, his background as a wrestler will help him like grappling, but
yeah,
his striking power is like what finishes.
yeah, it totally helps like the takedowns in MMA, but that's and maybe like on the groundwork a little bit, but that's really about it. In regards to like submissions and knocking people out, it just doesn't transfer as well. Yeah, and I also remember that I did some jiu-jitsu for a little bit, and I could like really, it was like this weird thing where I had no belt or anything. It was like a friend of mine is in MMA. He's been like the Bellator, and he's fought on The Ultimate Fighter before, and so he just lets me come to his gym, and like I can roll with purple and brown belts like pretty well, but I just can't tap them. Like I can outmaneuver them. I've just moved for so many years longer than them that I know how to move my body a little better than them. But there's just no like choke or submission that I can really put on them. They're just so much more knowledgeable of that asset, and that's way more essential in MMA in my mind than movement. Are there any other questions? Cool. Fletcher, what are the 3 styles of wrestling?
Folk style, freestyle, and Greco-Roman.
Nice. Jill, what is the difference between the 2 stances?
In folk style and freestyle, you're down lower and protecting your legs, and then in Greco-Roman, you're standing more up and leaning back with your upper body.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. That's all I had.
Yeah.